The subway platform reeked of damp concrete and stale air. Clare Bennett's hands trembled as she gripped the strap of her worn leather bag, her navy raincoat still dripping from the autumn downpour outside. Ryan Fletcher stood 20 feet away, his camera hanging from his neck like a weapon. His leather jacket was soaked, his eyes fixed on her with that familiar intensity that used to feel like love but now felt like suffocation. 6 weeks since she'd ended it. 6 weeks of him appearing everywhere. Her bakery. Her apartment. Now here. Claire. His voice cut through the platform noise. We need to talk. She turned away, but he moved closer. The other commuters pretended not to notice, buried in their phones and their own worlds. You can't keep ignoring me. Ryan's cologne overpowered everything else. What we had was real. I was documenting our love story, and you just threw it away. You turned my life into content without asking. Claire's voice stayed low, controlled. That's not love. That's violation. That's art. He raised his camera. And I'm not done telling our story. Panic fluttered in her chest. The platform felt smaller suddenly, the walls closing in. She needed an escape. Any escape. That's when she saw him. The man stood near the far pillar, completely out of place in the grimy station. His charcoal suit was perfectly tailored, crisp and expensive. Dark hair styled with effortless precision. He was staring at his phone, oblivious to everything around him, radiating the kind of calm confidence that came from never having to worry about anything. Claire's feet moved before her brain caught up. Excuse me. She stopped in front of him, breathless. I know this sounds insane, but I need you to pretend you know me. My ex is harassing me, and I need him to think I'm with someone. The stranger's eyes lifted from his phone. Honey-colored, sharp with intelligence, they flickered past her shoulder to where Ryan stood watching. Something shifted in his expression. There you are. His voice was smooth, warm, like aged whiskey. He slipped his phone into his pocket and smiled at her like she was the only person in the world. I was starting to worry you'd miss our train. It should have been enough. The charade. The fake familiarity. But Claire saw Ryan raising his camera, saw him preparing to document this moment, to twist it into another chapter of his obsessive narrative. She needed more. She needed proof that she'd moved on. That he'd lost. She kissed the stranger. Just meant to be quick. A brush of lips. A performance. But the stranger's hand rose to her waist, steady and warm, and he kissed her back like he'd been waiting his whole life to do it. The subway platform dissolved. The noise faded. There was only his mouth on hers, gentle but certain, igniting something she'd never felt with Ryan despite 18 months of trying. When they separated, they were both breathing harder. Thank you, Claire whispered. My pleasure. His hand stayed on her waist, protective. I'm Julian. Claire. The subway train arrived with a shriek of metal on metal, warm air rushing through the tunnel. Julian guided her onto the car, his hand still on her back, solid and reassuring. Through the window, she saw Ryan standing on the platform, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. The doors closed. The train pulled away. Julian's voice was quiet, meant only for her. Are you safe? Has he hurt you? Not physically. Claire's hands were still shaking. But he follows me. Takes pictures. Shows up everywhere. I just needed him to see that I've moved on. Julian studied her face with an intensity that should have felt invasive but didn't. After a kiss like that, I'd like to know more about you. Let me buy you dinner. Make sure you get home safe. Every instinct screamed at Claire to say no. This man wore a suit worth more than her monthly rent. He belonged to a world she'd never understand. But something in his eyes felt real. Genuine. Some were casual, she heard herself say. I smell like vanilla extract and have flour under my fingernails. Julian's laugh was warm, transforming his serious face into something approachable. Vanilla sounds perfect. The train carried them deeper into the city, away from Ryan, toward something Claire couldn't name yet. She didn't know that the handsome stranger beside her controlled a business empire. Didn't know that their chance meeting would become the most dangerous thing she'd ever done. She only knew that his hand was still on hers, warm and steady, and for the first time in 6 weeks, she felt like she could breathe. Julian's phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it, his attention fixed entirely on Claire. On the screen, a message from his assistant glowed unread. Emergency board meeting moved to tonight. The merger news leaked. Press is asking questions about the Masters global CEO. But Julian didn't see it. He was too busy watching the woman beside him, the one who'd kissed him like she was drowning and he was air, wondering why her lips had tasted like coming home. The Italian restaurant smelled like garlic and red wine. Candles flickered in empty wine bottles on checkered tablecloths. Julian had chosen this place deliberately, Claire realized. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would make her feel out of place. Tell me about the bakery. Julian leaned forward, his suit jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. The gesture made him seem more human. Less untouchable. Claire found herself talking freely. About her grandmother's chocolate cake recipe that took 2 years to perfect. About the bride who cried when she saw her wedding cake. About the 4 a.m. wake-up calls and flour permanently embedded under her nails. It sounds perfect. Julian's voice carried something wistful. Creating something with your own hands. Making people happy with something tangible. What do you do? Claire sipped her wine, studying him. You mentioned corporate management. Julian's fingers tightened around his glass. Meetings. Conference calls. Paperwork. Nothing as meaningful as what you do. The answer felt practiced. Incomplete. But Claire didn't push. They'd just met. Everyone deserved their secrets. 3 hours evaporated like steam. When the staff started stacking chairs, Claire blinked in surprise. Let me drive you home. Julian's car was waiting outside. Sleek black, leather interior, everything expensive and pristine. They drove through rain-slicked streets, the city lights blurring past. Julian's playlist was jazz, old standards, music that felt timeless. Can I see you again? He asked when they reached her apartment building. His hand covered hers on the console between them. I'd like that. Claire's heart hammered. But Julian, I need to be honest. I just got out of something toxic. I'm not looking for complicated. Neither am I. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Let's keep it simple. No pressure. Just 2 people getting to know each other. The kiss goodnight was softer than the one in the subway. Sweet. Full of promise. Claire floated up to her apartment, her phone already buzzing with a text from him, "Sleep well, baker girl." She was smiling when she opened her laptop to check her bakery's social media. The smile died. Ryan had posted a blog. Published an hour ago. The title made her stomach drop. The woman who broke my heart is already with someone new, a photo essay. The images were there. Her and Julian on the platform. The kiss. Their hands intertwined on the subway. Claire getting into his expensive car. But the narrative Ryan spun was poison. He painted her as shallow, chasing wealth, abandoning real love for a man in a designer suit. He implied she'd been cheating. That Julian was the reason she'd ended things. The post was going viral. Comments poured in, strangers dissecting her life, her choices, her character. Claire's hands shook as she scrolled. Then she saw something that made her blood freeze. One commenter had identified Julian. That's Julian Masters, CEO of Masters Global. Worth like 800 million. She definitely traded up. Claire typed the name into Google with trembling fingers. The results exploded across her screen. Julian Masters, 32, CEO of Masters Global Corporation, a conglomerate that owned everything from tech startups to real estate empires. Forbes 30 under 30. One of the city's most eligible bachelors. His face stared back at her from dozens of business magazines and society pages. He hadn't lied exactly. But he'd let her believe he was ordinary. Let her think they were somehow equals. Her phone buzzed. Julian, are you still awake? I can't stop thinking about you. Claire stared at the message. At his face on her laptop screen, photographed at some charity gala with women in diamond necklaces hanging on his arm. She thought about her small bakery. Her flour-dusted apron. Her student loans and thrift store furniture. Different worlds. Different universes. Another text, I know this is fast, but I want to see you tomorrow. Lunch at the bakery? I want to see where the magic happens. Claire's finger hovered over the keyboard. She should end this now. Before she got in deeper. Before the gap between their worlds became a chasm she couldn't cross. But she remembered his kiss. His laugh. The way he'd listened to her talk about croissants like she was discussing art. She typed, lunch sounds perfect. But Julian, we need to talk. His response was immediate, about what? Claire's fingers trembled as she typed, about who you really are. The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. When his message finally came through, it was just 2 words, I know. Then, I'm sorry I wasn't honest. Please let me explain. Tomorrow. Face to face. Claire closed her laptop, her mind spinning. The man she'd kissed, the one who made her feel safe for the first time in months, was a stranger after all. A billionaire CEO playing at normalcy with a baker who could barely make rent. She looked at Ryan's blog post again, at the comments ripping her apart, and felt the walls closing in. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Clare Bennett? The voice was female, professional, cold. This is Diana Chen from the Metro Daily. I'm writing a piece about Julian Masters' new relationship. Can you comment on how you two met? Are you aware of his reputation with women? How does it feel to be dating one of the city's richest men? Claire hung up without answering. 3 more calls came in the next 10 minutes. All press. All asking questions that made her feel like prey. She turned off her phone and lay in the darkness, wondering how a kiss meant to save her from one nightmare had dropped her into another. Tomorrow, she'd demand the truth. All of it. Tomorrow, everything would change. Julian arrived at Sweet Moments Bakery at noon sharp, still wearing a suit that probably cost more than Claire's oven. The lunch crowd had thinned, leaving them alone except for one elderly woman nursing coffee in the corner. Claire didn't smile. She locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and faced him with her arms crossed. $800 million. Her voice was flat. CEO of Masters Global. That's a pretty big detail to leave out. Julian's jaw tightened. I was going to tell you. When? After how many more dates where you pretended to be normal? She grabbed her laptop, turned it to face him. Ryan's blog post glowed on the screen, the comments now numbering in the thousands. I've had 7 reporters call me this morning. Ryan's post is everywhere. People are saying I'm a gold digger. That I used you to make him jealous. That I planned the whole subway thing. None of that is true. Julian moved closer, but Claire stepped back. Isn't it though? You saw a woman in trouble and thought what? That it might be fun to play regular guy for a night? Did you think I wouldn't find out? No. His voice turned sharp. I thought I'd finally met someone who saw me as a person instead of a bank account. Do you know what it's like, Claire? Everyone I meet wants something. A job. An investment. A connection. Access. You looked at me in that subway station and saw a stranger who could help you. Not Julian Masters. Just Julian. That felt real. But it wasn't real. Claire's throat burned. You lied. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. Not to me. She turned away, staring at her display case full of pastries she'd made at 4 a.m., back when her biggest problem was perfecting her buttercream. I can't do this. Our worlds are too different. You have charity galas and board meetings. I have early morning baking and student loan payments. This was a mistake. Don't do that. Julian's voice dropped low, dangerous. Don't hide behind our different bank accounts because you're scared. Scared? Claire whirled to face him. I have reporters camping outside my apartment. Ryan is using this to paint me as a villain. My bakery's Instagram is flooded with comments from strangers who think they know me. So yes, Julian, I'm scared. Because this is my life, my reputation, my business, and it's all falling apart because I kissed a stranger in a subway station. Julian's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Answer it. Claire's voice was cold. I'm sure it's important. CEO things. He pulled out his phone, his expression darkening as he read. It's my publicist. The press is running stories about us. They're speculating about our relationship. She wants to arrange a statement. A statement. Claire laughed bitterly. Of course. Because everything in your world is managed, isn't it? Curated. Controlled. That's not fair. Isn't it? You wanted normal, Julian? This is my normal. No publicists. No damage control. Just me trying to run a small business and live my life without becoming tabloid fodder. The elderly woman in the corner stood, gathering her things. She paused by the door, studying them both with eyes that had seen too much. He's here, isn't he? Fighting for you. That means something. She left, and the silence she left behind felt suffocating. Julian moved to the counter, his hands gripping the edge. You're right. I should have told you who I was. But Claire, I haven't felt this way in years. Maybe ever. You make me want to be better. Simpler. Real. I can't be your escape from reality. Claire's voice broke. And you can't be mine. Then what do we do? Before Claire could answer, the door rattled. Ryan stood outside, his camera raised, snapping photos through the glass. His face was twisted with triumph. He's been out there for an hour. Claire's hands curled into fists. Waiting for you to show up. This is exactly what he wanted. Proof that I'm with you. That his story is true. Julian's expression went cold, transforming from the warm man she'd kissed into something else entirely. Something harder. More ruthless. This was the CEO who'd built an empire. Stay here. He walked to the door and unlocked it. Julian, don't. But he was already outside. Claire watched through the window as he approached Ryan, his posture radiating controlled fury. She couldn't hear the words, but she saw Ryan's face pale. Saw him lower his camera. Saw Julian say something that made Ryan step back, then turn and walk away quickly, almost running. When Julian came back inside, his hands were shaking. What did you say to him? That if he comes near you again, I'll bury him. Julian's voice was flat. I know people. Lawyers. Journalists who owe me favors. I told him his writing career would be over before he published another word. Claire stared at him. You threatened him. I protected you. By using your power? Your money? Your connections? She shook her head. That's not protection, Julian. That's control. That's exactly what Ryan did. He thought he was documenting our love story, and you think you're saving me, but neither of you asked what I wanted. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? Claire's voice rose. You just made decisions about my life without consulting me. You solved my problem the way you probably solve all your problems. With power and threats and money. I don't want to be another thing you fix, Julian. Another acquisition you manage. Claire. He reached for her, but she moved away. I think you should go. Don't do this. We can figure it out. How? She was crying now, hot tears of frustration and fear and heartbreak. You can't stop being who you are, and I won't become something I'm not. We met because I needed a stranger to save me, and that's all we'll ever be. Strangers who shared a moment that shouldn't have happened. Julian's phone buzzed again. The sound felt like a punctuation mark on everything falling apart between them. I have to take this. His voice was hollow. It's the board. The merger is falling through because of the press coverage. Because of us. Then fix it. Claire turned away, unable to look at him. Go be the CEO. It's what you're good at. She heard him answer the call, his voice shifting into that professional tone she recognized from his careful lies about corporate management. Heard him walk to the door. Claire. He paused, his hand on the doorknob. I meant everything I said. About you. About us. So did I. She didn't turn around. That's why this hurts so much. The door closed behind him. Claire sank to the floor behind her counter, surrounded by the smell of vanilla and chocolate and her own shattered illusions. Her phone buzzed. A text from Julian, this isn't over. I'm not giving up on you. On us. But as she looked around her small bakery, at the life she'd built with her own hands, Claire knew some things couldn't be fixed with money or power or connections. Some things just broke. And she had no idea that Julian's threat to Ryan would set off a chain of events that would force them both to make impossible choices. Or that Ryan's revenge would cost more than either of them imagined. 3 days of silence. Julian had texted twice. Claire hadn't responded. She threw herself into work, arriving earlier, staying later, perfecting recipes that were already perfect. Anything to stop thinking about honey-colored eyes and kisses that had felt like coming home. Thursday morning, 5 a.m., Claire was pulling croissants from the oven when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Miss Bennett? The voice was male, official, wrong. This is Detective Morrison with the city police. We need you to come to the station. It's about Ryan Fletcher. The croissants burned. At the station, Detective Morrison was mid-40s, tired eyes, coffee-stained tie. He led her to a small room that smelled like fear and instant coffee. When did you last see Mr. Fletcher? Tuesday. Outside my bakery. Claire's hands twisted in her lap. Why? What happened? Morrison exchanged glances with his partner. He was found unconscious in his apartment last night. Someone beat him badly. He's in the hospital now, critical condition. Before he lost consciousness, he said your name. And Julian Masters. The room tilted. We would never. We're not accusing you of anything. Morrison's voice was neutral, careful. But we need to understand the situation. Mr. Fletcher filed a restraining order request against Mr. Masters 2 days ago. Claimed Masters threatened his life. Made the filing public, along with recordings of their conversation outside your bakery. Claire's blood turned to ice. The audio is all over the internet, Morrison continued. Masters threatening to destroy Fletcher's career. Using some pretty specific language about making him disappear. Now Fletcher's in ICU with a fractured skull, and we need to know where Masters was last night between 10 p.m. and midnight. He wouldn't. But Claire's voice shook. She remembered Julian's cold fury. The way he'd transformed into someone she didn't recognize. Julian wouldn't hurt anyone. People with power hurt people all the time, Miss Bennett. Morrison slid a tablet across the table. This is the recording. Claire pressed play with trembling hands. Julian's voice, barely controlled rage, stay away from her. If you come near Claire again, if you publish another word about her, I will destroy you. I have lawyers who will bury you in lawsuits. Journalists who will rip apart every article you've ever written. By the time I'm done, no one will touch your work. You'll be finished. Ryan's voice, shaking, you can't threaten me. That's not a threat. It's a promise. People like you think you can hide behind your camera and your blog. But I can reach places you can't imagine. I can make you disappear without laying a finger on you. So back off, or find out what I'm capable of. The recording ended. Claire felt sick. Where was Mr. Masters last night? Morrison's eyes were sharp. I don't know. We're not together. We barely know each other. But even as she said it, Claire knew it was a lie. She knew Julian. Knew the man who'd kissed her like she mattered. Who'd listened to her talk about baking like it was poetry. That man wouldn't hurt anyone. Would he? Morrison stood. We'll need to speak with Mr. Masters. If you hear from him, tell him to contact us immediately. Claire drove home in a daze. The news was already breaking. Billionaire CEO under investigation in assault case. Julian Masters questioned after blogger attack. Romance gone wrong, power, obsession, and violence. Her phone rang. Julian. She answered without thinking. Tell me you didn't do it. Claire, his voice was raw, exhausted. I just heard. I'm at my lawyer's office. The police want to question me. Did you hurt him? Silence stretched between them, long enough to break her heart. No. Julian's voice was firm. I threatened him, yes. I regret that. But I didn't touch him, Claire. I would never, I'm not capable of that. People keep telling me what you're capable of. Claire's voice cracked. Your power. Your connections. Your ability to make people disappear. I was angry. I was trying to scare him into leaving you alone. But I didn't, Claire, you have to believe me. I don't know what to believe anymore. She watched the news play on her laptop. Julian's face, professional photos making him look cold, corporate, capable of anything. The police have recordings. Your threats. And now Ryan might die, and everyone thinks you did it. I need you to trust me. How can I? I don't even know you. We met 4 days ago, Julian. 4 days, and my entire life is imploding. Then let me fix it. You can't fix this. Claire was shouting now, years of held-back emotion pouring out. You can't throw money at it or threaten people or make it go away. Someone hurt Ryan, and whether you did it or not, this is happening because of us. Because I was stupid enough to think a kiss could save me. Her doorbell rang. Through the window, she saw reporters on her steps. News vans parked outside. I have to go. Claire moved away from the windows. The press is here. Claire, wait. Meet me somewhere. Tonight. Let me explain everything. There's nothing to explain. This was a mistake. All of it. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. She was crying now, hot tears of grief for something that had never really existed. "Goodbye, Julian." She hung up. The phone rang again immediately. She turned it off. For hours, Claire sat in her apartment in the dark, listening to reporters knock on her door, watching her bakery's reputation crumble on social media. Customers were canceling orders. People were calling her a homewrecker, a gold digger, complicit in assault. Everything she'd built was dying because she'd kissed a stranger. At midnight, her laptop pinged. An email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line, "The truth about Julian Masters." Claire's finger hovered over delete. She should ignore it. Should turn off the laptop and try to sleep. But she opened it instead. And what she read made her entire world shift again. The email was from Julian's ex-girlfriend. A woman named Victoria Chen who'd dated him 3 years ago. The message was detailed, painful, and terrifying. "Julian Masters is not who he pretends to be. He's controlling, obsessive, and when I tried to leave him, he destroyed my career. Used his connections to get me blacklisted from every PR firm in the city. Made sure I could never work in my field again. When I threatened to go public, his lawyers buried me in lawsuits until I had nothing left. He's done this to other women too. We've all been too scared to speak. But if you're with him now, you need to know the truth. He doesn't protect the women he claims to love. He owns them. And if you try to leave, he'll destroy you too." Claire stared at the screen, her hands shaking so hard she could barely type a response. This couldn't be real. Could it? Her phone was off, but when she turned it back on, there were 57 missed calls. Most from reporters. 3 from Julian. And 1 voicemail from a number she didn't recognize. She pressed play. Ryan's voice, weak and slurred from medication. "Claire, it's me. I'm sorry. For everything. The blog posts, the stalking, all of it. I was wrong. But you need to know something. The man who attacked me? I saw his face. It wasn't Julian. But he worked for Julian. I'm sure of it. Expensive suit, professional, told me this was a message from Masters. Said this is what happens to people who don't listen. Claire, get away from him. Before he hurts you too." The voicemail ended. Claire's apartment felt too small suddenly. Too exposed. She grabbed her keys with shaking hands, not knowing where she'd go. Just knowing she had to move. Her phone rang. Julian again. This time, she answered. "Don't hang up." His voice was desperate. "I know what you're thinking. Whatever you've heard, whatever Ryan said, it's not true. Claire, someone is setting me up. Someone who wants to destroy me is using our relationship to do it. And you're caught in the middle." "Who's Victoria Chen?" The silence that followed told her everything. She was a mistake. Julian's voice was hollow. A relationship that ended badly. "But I never hurt her, Claire. I never sent anyone after Ryan. Someone is lying to you, and I need you to trust me long enough to prove it." "Why should I?" "Because you felt it too. That kiss. That connection. You know me, Claire. The real me. Not the CEO, not the billionaire. The man who sat in your bakery and listened to you talk about croissants like they were art. That man is real. And he would never hurt you." Claire looked at the reporters outside her window. At the emails flooding her inbox. At the life she'd built that was crumbling around her. "I can't do this anymore." Her voice broke. "I'm done, Julian. With you, with Ryan, with all of it. If you walk away now, whoever's behind this wins. They're counting on you being too scared to fight back. Maybe I am too scared." Claire grabbed her coat. "Maybe that makes me smart. Or maybe it makes you exactly what they want you to be. Alone. Isolated. Easy to manipulate. Claire paused at the door. What are you saying? I'm saying someone wants us both destroyed. And the only way we survive this is together. Through her window, Claire saw movement. A black SUV pulling up outside her building. Men in suits emerging. Not reporters. Something else. Julian, who? Don't go outside. His voice turned sharp with fear. Claire, listen to me very carefully. Lock your doors. Don't let anyone in. I'm sending my security team to you right now. Someone just tried to access your bakery. They're looking for you. Claire's blood turned to ice. How do you know that? Because I've had people watching your building since Ryan was attacked. Because I knew whoever really hurt him would come for you next. Claire, please. Trust me one more time. Let me keep you safe. The men outside were approaching her building now. Claire's hands shook as she turned the deadbolt. Why would anyone want to hurt me? Because you're the only witness who can prove I wasn't with Ryan that night. Because if you disappear or if something happens to you, I become the only suspect. And whoever did this wants me in prison, Claire. They want me destroyed. And they're willing to kill you to make it happen. Claire sank to the floor, her back against the door. Outside, the men in suits were talking to the reporters. Flashing badges. Are those your people or the police? I don't know. Julian's voice was tight with fear. I'm 15 minutes away. Don't open the door for anyone until I get there. Julian. Claire's voice was barely a whisper. I'm scared. I know. So am I. But we're going to figure this out. Together. I promise. And for the first time in 4 days, despite everything, Claire believed him. Julian arrived in 12 minutes. Claire heard his voice through the door, calm and certain, dismissing the men with badges who turned out to be real police checking on reported suspicious activity. When she finally opened the door, he looked like he'd aged years. His suit was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion and something that looked like terror. Thank God. He pulled her into his arms, and Claire let herself collapse against him. Just for a moment. Just long enough to remember why she'd kissed him in the first place. Then she pushed away. Tell me everything. No more lies. No more half-truths. Who's doing this? Julian moved to her window, checking the street below. His security team was now positioned outside. Her name is Victoria Chen. Claire's stomach dropped. Your ex. The one from the email. It wasn't from her. Julian turned to face Claire, his expression carved from stone. She's dead, Claire. Died 2 years ago. Car accident. Someone is using her identity to manipulate you. The room spun. Then who sent the email? My half-brother. Marcus Masters. Julian's voice was flat, empty. He's been trying to take control of the company for years. Our father left everything to me when he died, and Marcus has been fighting it ever since. The merger that's falling through? He's the one who leaked it to the press. He orchestrated all of this. The blog posts going viral. Ryan's attack. The police investigation. The email from Victoria. All of it designed to destroy my reputation and make me look like a violent criminal. Why would he attack Ryan? Because Ryan was useful. A stalker ex-boyfriend created the perfect setup. Marcus hired someone to beat Ryan and frame me for it. The recordings of my threats were everywhere. I looked guilty. And if you testified against me, if you said I was capable of violence, the case would be airtight. Claire sank onto her couch. But I won't testify against you. Marcus doesn't know that. He's been counting on you hating me by now. Being scared enough to believe I'm a monster. Julian knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Claire, I need you to understand something. Victoria was real. I did care about her. And when things ended, it was ugly. I didn't destroy her career, but I didn't stop it from happening either. Someone in my company who wanted to curry favor with me made sure she couldn't work again. By the time I found out, it was too late. She spiraled. Started drinking. The car accident that killed her? She was drunk, Claire. And I've carried that guilt every day since. Marcus knows that. Knows I'm weak where that's concerned. So he used her memory to make you doubt me. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm done with lies. Even lies of omission. You deserve to know who I really am. The good and the terrible. His hands tightened on hers. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes that cost people their lives. But I'm not a monster. And I need you to believe that. Because the only way we stop Marcus is together. Claire looked at this man who'd turned her life upside down in less than a week. What do? We give him what he wants. Julian stood, pulling out his phone. We make him think he's won. 20 minutes later, Claire sat in Julian's apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Furniture that cost more than her yearly income. This was his real world. The one she'd never belonged to. Julian's lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia, was already there with stacks of documents. This is insane. Patricia paced the room. You're suggesting we let your brother think he successfully framed you. That we plant evidence showing Claire helped cover up Ryan's attack. You'll both be arrested. For about 6 hours. Julian's voice was calm. Too calm. Just long enough for Marcus to show his hand. He'll try to seize control of the company the moment I'm in custody. The board is meeting tomorrow morning to vote on emergency leadership. Marcus has been buying votes for months. But he's gotten sloppy. Overconfident. If we can get him to make one move that's obviously criminal, we can expose everything. And if you're wrong? Claire's voice shook. If he wins? What happens to us? Julian met her eyes. Then I go to prison for assault I didn't commit. Marcus takes the company. And you lose everything you've built because you'll be seen as an accomplice. Your bakery, your reputation, your freedom. All gone. Julian, no. Patricia slammed her briefcase shut. I won't let you do this. The risk is too high. The risk of doing nothing is higher. Julian turned back to Claire. Marcus won't stop with me. He'll destroy anyone connected to me. That includes you. The only way you're safe is if we end this. Now. Tonight. Claire stood, her legs shaking. You're asking me to trust you with my entire life. I'm asking you to let me fix the disaster I created. Julian's voice broke. You were right before. I did this. My threats to Ryan. My secrets. My brother's vendetta against me. This is all my fault, and you're paying the price. So let me make it right. Even if it costs me everything. Claire looked at this man. This complicated, damaged, powerful man who'd walked into her life and destroyed it and somehow made her feel more alive than she'd ever felt with Ryan. What do you need me to do? The plan was simple. Too simple. Claire would give a statement to police claiming she'd been with Julian the night of Ryan's attack, providing him an alibi. But the statement would contain inconsistencies, deliberate mistakes that would make it obvious she was lying. The police would arrest them both for conspiracy and obstruction. Marcus, monitoring everything through his connections in the department, would see his chance. With Julian in custody and unable to vote, he'd move to take emergency control of Masters Global. But Julian's security team had been quietly documenting Marcus's illegal activities for months. The moment Marcus made his move, they'd turn over evidence of bribery, fraud, and conspiracy to commit assault. It has to be perfect timing. Patricia was still trying to talk them out of it. If anything goes wrong, you're both finished. Then we don't let anything go wrong. Julian handed Claire a burner phone. If something happens, if you need to run, use this. My head of security will get you out. I'm not running. Claire's voice was steady now. Certain. We end this. Together. At 3 a.m., Claire gave her false statement to Detective Morrison. She was terrible at lying. Her hands shook. Her voice wavered. The inconsistencies were obvious even to her. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Miss Bennett, are you sure about these timeline details? Yes. Claire forced herself to meet his gaze. I was with Julian Masters from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. the night Ryan was attacked. He couldn't have hurt anyone. You told me yesterday you didn't know where he was. I lied. Claire's voice broke, and it wasn't entirely an act. I was scared. But I can't let an innocent man go to prison. Morrison exchanged glances with his partner. We'll need to verify your statement. Don't leave the city. 6 hours later, just as Julian predicted, Claire and Julian were arrested. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. Providing false statements. The charges were serious enough to keep them in custody through the weekend. The press exploded. Billionaire CEO and girlfriend arrested in assault cover-up. Romance turns criminal. And in a conference room across the city, Marcus Masters smiled and made his move. The emergency board meeting was called for 10 a.m. Saturday. With Julian in custody, Marcus positioned himself as the stable choice to lead Masters Global through the crisis. But Julian's head of security, a former FBI agent named Thomas, was already 3 steps ahead. At 9:45 a.m., as the board prepared to vote, federal agents walked into the conference room. Thomas followed, carrying a laptop and years' worth of evidence. Marcus Masters, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit assault, bribery of public officials, corporate fraud, and attempted murder. The room exploded into chaos. Marcus tried to run. He didn't make it to the door. By noon, Claire and Julian were released. All charges dropped. Marcus was in federal custody, and the evidence against him was overwhelming. Emails showing he'd hired the man who attacked Ryan. Recordings of him bribing board members. Bank records showing payments to the person who'd sent the fake email from Victoria. It was over. Claire and Julian stood outside the police station, blinking in the afternoon sun. Reporters shouted questions, but Julian's security team held them back. I need to see Ryan. Claire's first words. I need to apologize. They visited him that evening. Ryan was awake, bandaged, his jaw wired shut. But his eyes were clear. I'm sorry. Claire's voice was thick with tears. For everything. I never wanted any of this. Ryan grabbed a notepad, wrote slowly, I'm the one who's sorry. I was obsessed. Toxic. You deserved better. We both did. He looked at Julian. Wrote again, take care of her. Or I'll write a very unflattering blog post. Julian actually smiled. Deal. Outside the hospital, Claire turned to Julian. The sun was setting over the city, painting everything gold and amber. What happens now? She asked. I don't know. Julian's voice was honest. Raw. The company is a mess. The board wants me to step down. Marcus's trial will be brutal and public. And you have a bakery to rebuild after this circus destroyed your reputation. So we're back where we started. Different worlds. No. Julian took her hands. We're somewhere new. Somewhere harder. But maybe somewhere real. If you want to try. Claire looked at this man who'd cost her everything and given her something she'd never had before. Truth. Complicated, painful, beautiful truth. I'm scared, she admitted. Of your world. Of losing myself in it. Then don't. Julian's smile was sad. Keep your bakery. Keep your early mornings and your flour-stained aprons. I'll be the CEO who dates a baker. Who learns to make croissants at 4 a.m. and doesn't mind that the woman he loves has a world completely separate from his. You love me? Claire's heart hammered. I fell for you the moment you kissed me in that subway station. Before I knew if you were brave or desperate or crazy. I just knew I wanted to keep feeling whatever you made me feel. He cupped her face gently. So yes, Clare Bennett. I love you. Your flour-stained hands and your small dreams and the way you see me as Julian instead of Julian Masters. I love all of it. Claire kissed him. Right there on the street, with reporters watching and cameras flashing and her entire complicated future spreading out before them. It wasn't perfect. Their worlds were still different. The challenges were still real. The press would be brutal. The road ahead would be hard. But it was real. And sometimes, real was enough. 3 months later, Sweet Moments Bakery reopened with a line around the block. Claire had used her newfound notoriety to expand, hiring staff, updating equipment, proving that scandal didn't have to mean surrender. Julian was there every morning at 5 a.m., learning to shape croissants with hands better suited to signing contracts. He was terrible at it. But he showed up. Ryan published one final blog post. An apology. A confession. A new beginning. Marcus's trial ended with a 20-year sentence. Justice, finally. And on a Tuesday evening, exactly 6 months after a desperate kiss in a subway station, Julian knelt in the bakery that smelled like vanilla and hope and asked Claire to marry him with a ring that was perfect not because of how much it cost but because of what it meant. She said yes. Not because their worlds had become the same. But because they'd learned to live in both. Together. Real. Complicated. Scarred and healing. And every morning, Claire woke at 4 a.m. to bake croissants while Julian slept in her small apartment above the bakery that he now partly owned because she'd let him invest in her dream without letting him control it. Different worlds. One love. Real and messy and worth every impossible moment. The end.